let's say if you have, three people who are purchasing a house, if I were to be asked a question about the mortgage payment, would that just come out of one bank account or would it be divided amongst the three of them?
No, it would have to come out of one bank account. So,
Okay.
but there's no reason in the world why somebody can't open a checking account in three names. So they can do that. If you're going to enter into a contract like this, you open up a bank account separately to handle the mortgage payments alone, and everybody is responsible for putting the money into that bank account in time for the mortgage payments.
Good morning. It's Sandra Pike from Royal Page Atlantic, and today we are with Mike Caron from CUA once again. Great, Mike, to have you today. How you doing?
Great. How are you, Sandra?
Good,
Great to
good,
hear.
good, good. So, there's been so much turmoil, not just here in Halifax, I would say across Canada, even the US. We're talking about affordable housing, that it's out of a lot of people's reach. Yet, you have some great programs that are able to assist people. Can we just talk about the no down payment, for example? Because I know that's one of your strong suits with
Yeah.
CUA.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, but it's always a good idea to talk about it again. So, really, what we do is people struggle to save a down payment. Now, I will say they still have to save their closing costs, so that could be up to 2 to 3% of the cost of
Mhm.
a purchase. But that extra 5% that they may not have, we will actually lend them that on a loan. And so we include it in their debt ratios, and they have to, and it's a high ratio mortgage, and we do it through Sagen. And so they still have to qualify for that loan as well as the mortgage payment. And then what happens is we turn around on the mortgage and we give them a 5% cash back. And we generally will say, look, take that 5% cash back and pay off that loan that we just gave you
Yeah.
because it is equivalent to the amount. So they get into a house with just their savings for their closing costs. They don't have the loan that they had borrowed for the down payment because that's paid off with the cash back. The rate is a little bit higher than what market rates are, obviously, because there's a little bit more risk.
Mhm.
And they're into a house a lot quicker than they would be if they have to save for another 3, 4, 5, 10 years, whatever it is that they need to be able to save that 5%. Because as you know, we're not talking about in a lot of cases $150,000 or $200,000 to buy a house anymore. The market
No.
has changed things over the last couple 3 years, so it gets a little bit more difficult. So to qualify them, we still have to use the stress test that OSFI is required with the extra 2%. So it is a great product if people have the right cash flow to be able to afford a house. And there's lots of people, Sandra, that are living in an apartment where they're paying high apartment rates these days, as you know, and they struggle because they really would love to buy a home, but they don't know that this is available. And so it is 100% available. And as long as they've got the cash flow to be able to pay, we can get them approved.
I had an interesting deal come across my desk the other day. So I am the listing agent in this case. And it was three international students. Two of them worked at Tim Hortons, and another one was a driver's or is a driver's ed instructor. And the three of them were coming together to purchase a property. So do you see that happening, with your brokers, or do you see any deals like that at all come across your desk?
We do sometimes, but then when you get into a high ratio mortgage, it's not just us for approval, right? It is
Yeah.
also Sagen that has to approve it. So those jobs have to be consistent and the income has to be consistent to be able to say, okay, this is the income that they've earned over the last 2 years. And if they have, there's no reason in the world why they can't qualify for a mortgage. They do have to have permanent residency.
Yes, of
So
course.
and there are some struggles these days with the new rules that are out there as far as new immigrants having to be here for at least 2 years. And to be honest with you, I won't get into it because it's deep.
Yes.
But look, there's, if we're probably going to see that a lot more, where multiple people who are not necessarily family that say, hey, you know what, the only way that we're going to be able to afford a house is pool our resources. Let's buy a house together. And I know they're seeing it a lot in the bigger communities, especially in Toronto and Vancouver and Montreal, those places. Definitely.
Can you help me understand? So let's say the average house price is 500,000 and you need about, let's say, a household income of, $90,000 and change, for example. So you could have three different people making $30,000 each qualify for a mortgage.
Yeah, I'd have to just work those numbers really quickly because 90,000, you get
Well, just
90,
on it, like an example.
yeah. So yeah, if the debt ratios work, whether it's 90,000 or 120,000, it might be that much these days for a $500,000 home with
Yeah.
5% down, because they're big payments these days. So and the other thing that they have to qualify with that extra stress test, regardless of whether or not the interest rate is 6%, they have to qualify at 8%. But there's no reason, as long as the debt ratios work, and we can confirm the income properly, so that we could satisfy Sagen's requirements as far as income confirmation. There's no reason in the world why they can't do it. Like I said, pool their resources, come and see us, and it's unique, and it's not something that we're used to necessarily in Atlantic Canada, but we're gonna have to start getting used to it, because I know that people are going to start doing that if they want home ownership. And when you think about it, what a great idea. Even if they decide to go their separate ways later down the road, they put it into some kind of legal document that they each own a third if it was three people. And if they wanted to sell, well, they pay themselves out, and they earn equity, right?
Yep, absolutely. So if it's okay to ask you another question, because that is an interesting scenario, but I mean, it'd be no different than myself and my husband buying a house, because we are both qualifying for the mortgage. So I guess it's the same thing. But let's say if you have, three people who are purchasing a house, if I were to be asked a question about the mortgage payment, would that just come out of one bank account, or would it be divided amongst the three of them?
No, it would have to come out of one bank account. So,
okay.
But there's no reason in the world why somebody can't open a checking account in three names, so they can do that. So that would be the suggestion, is that if you're going to enter into a contract like this, you open up a bank account separately to handle the mortgage payments alone, and everybody is responsible for putting the money into that bank account in time for the mortgage payments.
But, you think about it, what a great, I mean, not necessarily the ideal situation, but what a great way for, the younger, let's say late 20s, early 30s, what a great way for them to build equity, for when they go down and buy, let's say, their forever home, they have the equity already started in a property with someone else. So I just... Yep. Isn't enough people taking advantage of that, I believe.
I think it's just because it's so unique, and it's not something, when I worked in Toronto, it was several years ago now, it was not uncommon to see that. Now, usually it could have been like two brothers or sister and brother and family members that way, but it was not uncommon to see people pooling their resources that way. So it's just probably uncommon here because we're, not
it's just
used
the
to
norm,
that.
right? Husband and wife or family, whatever. It's not friends. But
that's right.
But you look at business partners, though, I mean, they buy buildings or whatever. So I guess it's no different. It's just not really talked about. And again, just wonderful opportunity for people to get into the market.
Sure. I mean, they would be roommates if they were, they enter into a leasing contract with renting. Why not enter into a mortgage contract?
Yeah, and I guess if even in that case scenario, and I believe you've already said it, but just to confirm that they could go through you for a no down payment, provided the good credit and the debt service ratios worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, is there a particular type of home that would be excluded from that, like say a mobile home, for example?
Yes, yeah, a mobile home definitely, and it's in particular in a park. But mobile homes are a unique product, and we don't include the no down payment in that. And in a leased park, because they don't own the land, and it's actually not a mortgage. It's what's called a chattel loan, and we go through what is called the CLIP program, which is the chattel loan insurance program. I believe that's what it stands for. Somebody will correct me, I'm sure, if I'm wrong. And that's through CMHC. So yeah, no, that no down payment program is not available for mobile homes.
Okay. And I was, speaking of mobile homes, I had no, you hear, we're always struggling to find a lender for our clients when they are purchasing a mobile home. And, right now the hot one has been RBC. And I think a couple of years before that it was TD.
That's right.
And, what's different about your program at CUA?
Well, I think why we see them in particular is the brokers do end up getting applications. And so we deal with brokers. RBC doesn't necessarily deal with brokers. So they would have to turn that deal away. Our interest rates are going to be at posted interest rates for a mobile home. They wouldn't be discounted interest rates. So they might be a little bit higher. However, we do a lot of them. We get brokers sending us deals all the time through clip
Oh,
loans and also mobile homes in like on their own land. So, and we're seeing a lot, and mobile homes these days can be manufactured homes. And of course, everybody
absolutely.
prefers a manufactured home, but we're seeing a lot of manufactured homes these days. And so we can go through the draw construction process for manufactured homes. So if somebody owns their land and they've got their land ready, I know I'm just approved a deal the other day for 2 draws for a manufactured home through Kent, and it's going to be dropped on the foundation. So the foundation, the excavation, everything is being done in advance for a well and septic and what have you. And then so we'll give them as soon as it's dropped, we give them we have an inspector go out and we give them 1 draw, and then they finish up everything, attaching plumbing, electricity, and so on and so forth. And then we give them the final draw. So, that's a draw. We do that in a draw construction process as well.
Interesting. So with a prefab home, for example, there'd be only 2 draws?
Yeah, because the manufacturer will take a deposit up front. So so they take a deposit from the individual, and usually these people are in a position where they've got land, it's been excavated, it's got the well and septic and so on in it already. So the manufacturer will take a deposit up front, and then when we approve them for the mortgage, they take the mortgage approval. They have an insurance package involved for the shipping of that product, which of course, it does have to get on a flatbed and drive down the road. And then they put it into place on the foundation or a slab. In a lot of cases, it's on a slab, which is fine. It's not tied down like a mobile home would be. So that's a manufactured home. And then so we do 1 draw at that point, and that's usually the biggest draw. And then the finishing touches, which is they have to install the cabinets and they have to install any moldings or anything that would be sensitive to the drive. And then they have to, and I'm not an expert on this when it comes to what they have to do, but definitely the plumbing and the electricity and
Of course.
those things. So and then that's the final draw, and they're in their home. So it's almost like a turnkey,
Yeah.
but it is a little bit more. We will do draws for the manufacturers, and the manufacturers are very good at this. There's a few of them out there that are really good. We know Prestige and Kent and Supreme. These are manufacturers that have been doing this for a long time, and they've got the homes down. A lot of people will argue that they're getting a better product than a stick build
Yes, I've
that
heard
is
that.
being, yeah. So, and I really don't know whether they are or not, but at the same time, you think about it, they're building it in a manufacturing facility as opposed to out in the elements, right? So,
Oh, I'm all
um,
about the prefab homes. So, and I've heard many great things about them.
Yeah.
Especially the suppliers that you mentioned. But when it comes to the draw mortgages for a prefab home, is
Mhm.
there a limit to the purchase price? Because some of the homes you can buy that Kent had, I remember looking at them a few years ago. You know, is there a budget that you wouldn't touch, or you know, if there's a prefab
Well,
home that's 800,000, yeah, we can still do a draw
yeah,
mortgage.
yeah. We do a few of them down in Bridgewater.
Yeah.
Bridgewater is a pretty popular spot for the prefabs. Lots of land available and what have you. And of course, as you know, sometimes it's a little bit in today's world. We're seeing a lot of people that are working remotely, and so they don't have to live in Halifax anymore. I've got an application on my desk right now where it's a no down payment. These people are originally from a different country. They are landed citizens. He's a software engineer, and he wants to live in New Glasgow. He and his wife and family want to live in New Glasgow. So we're in the process of working that deal. It looks very good. And so they're buying a turnkey, beautiful property in New Glasgow that they're getting for half the price that they would probably get for in Halifax. I guarantee it would be half the price.
Oh,
So it's we're seeing a lot of people that are going to communities outside of Halifax because they have that ability where working remotely is kind of well, it's almost well, you do it. I mean, the real estate industry always did it, but so many different industries, they're not going to the office anymore. They're working from home. So it is opening up lots of opportunity in different communities uh, outside Halifax, which is great.
no, and we're all very thankful for that. So I won't take up much of your time today, but certainly great, three great topics today that we spoke of, Mike. And if anybody wanted to get in touch with any of your brokers, what would be the best way?
So they could get in touch with if they're dealing with a broker through Premier or through TMG or even Centum, all of the big brokers, they all know about CUA, and Mortgage Center, all of them really, Dominion Lending Center. We're doing business with quite a few of them from all of these big brokerage firms. Even some of the independents, there are some independents out there that are very well versed through CUA, and we do have a FileLogic system where they can send their application, so they just have to look for CUA under the private lending system on FileLogics. And so the brokers, they know who we are, and they know that the draw construction is a hot topic. So in the draw construction and the stick build, we're still doing those as well, and we're pretty popular when it comes to those because we've got some expertise that they may not have necessarily in the branches anymore. And we do them on a conventional basis, and there's different territories and markets that we will do them in on a conventional basis. So we have some brokers that send us a fair amount of business when it comes to those. They could be long and tedious, but they are, I've always, we get them done. I know when I worked in the branches before a long time ago, I used to say to people, if you're doing a draw construction and you're self-building, I said, you and I are going to get along great. They're through the application process. We're going to get you approved and what have you. I said, by the end of it, you might hate me though, because it's a process. Well, how come, there's all these little nuances like mechanic lien holdbacks, and, sometimes people overspend a little bit. So we make sure that we put cost overruns. Like I put 10% into an application. When somebody says it's going to cost $500,000 to build their house, I put a cost overrun of 10% more for $550,000, so that just in case they see something that they really like, we like these countertops instead of those countertops, or this flooring instead of that flooring. And some people sometimes and it could be other things too. It could be that as we know that costs go up when it comes to construction materials and labor, so it's important to have those things built in, so we know what we're doing when it comes to that.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much today for your time.
Thank you, Sandra. Appreciate it.